Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. If you've got old Australian 10-cent coins lying around, you might be sitting on a hidden fortune and not even realize it. Some of the most ordinary-looking coins from 1966 to 1985 have sold for thousands of bucks. And the shocking part is, most people spent them without a second thought. Today, we're diving into the rare 10-cent coins that could still be out there in circulation, waiting to be discovered. And one of them might completely change what you think loose change is worth. There's something quietly thrilling about digging through old coins in Australia, because every so often, hidden among the everyday pieces, there's a story waiting to be uncovered. And sometimes, that story is worth far more than anyone could ever expect. The 1966 Australian 10-cent coin is one of those pieces that most people overlook, mostly because it was the very first year Australia switched to decimal currency, and millions of these coins were released into circulation. At first glance, it feels common, almost ordinary, something you'd expect to find rattling around in an old jar or tucked away in a drawer. But what makes this coin so fascinating is that not all of them are created equal. Subtle differences, tiny minting quirks, and rare variations have turned what was once everyday change into something collectors obsess over. When Australia transitioned from pounds, shillings and pence to dollars and cents in 1966, the Royal Australian Mint worked tirelessly to produce enough coins to meet demand. And in that rush, certain imperfections and unique characteristics slipped through. The 10-cent coin, featuring the iconic lyrebird design, became a symbol of this new era. But behind that familiar design lies a deeper layer of intrigue. Some of these coins were struck with slight variations in the metal composition. Others show unusual die characteristics, and a select few have features so rare that they've become legendary among collectors. These are the kinds of coins that turn up unexpectedly, sometimes after decades of sitting unnoticed, only to shock their owners with their true significance. Collectors across Australia have spent years hunting for these elusive versions, checking every 1966 10-cent coin they come across, hoping to spot that one detail that sets it apart. It might be the sharpness of the strike, the positioning of the design, or even microscopic differences that only trained eyes can detect. Stories circulate within the collecting community about people finding one in an old tin, inherited from a relative, or picked up in loose change decades ago and forgotten. These moments are what keep the hunt alive, because the possibility that such a valuable piece could still be out there, hiding in plain sight, is incredibly real. The demand for rare Australian decimal coins has surged in recent years, driven by both seasoned collectors and newcomers eager to uncover a piece of history. The 1966 10-cent coin sits at the heart of this fascination, not just because it marks the beginning of Australia's decimal currency, but because of the mystery surrounding its rare variants. Every time one surfaces at auction or is authenticated by experts, it reignites interest and pushes more people to start searching. The idea that a coin so small and seemingly insignificant could hold such immense value is what makes it so captivating, and it's why collectors are willing to pay extraordinary amounts for the right example. What truly sets this coin apart is the combination of its historical importance and the rarity of its most sought-after versions. While millions were produced, only a tiny fraction possess the exact qualities that collectors are chasing, and that scarcity drives intense competition whenever one becomes available. It's not just about owning a coin, it's about owning a piece of Australia's transition into a modern currency system, a tangible link to a moment that changed the nation's financial landscape forever. For those lucky enough to find one, it's more than just a discovery. It's a story, a connection, and potentially a life-changing moment. And here's where things get truly unbelievable. Because while most 1966 10-cent coins are only worth face value or slightly more, the rare and highly desirable versions have been known to sell for over $35,000, turning what was once everyday change into one of the most exciting hidden treasures in Australian coin collecting. But don't get too comfortable, because the next coin we're about to uncover makes this one look small, and its value climbs even higher into territory most collectors only dream about. Next up, there's a certain kind of excitement that only comes from coins that sit quietly in the shadows, never quite getting the same attention as their more famous counterparts, yet holding secrets that can rival or even surpass them. The 1968 Australian 10-cent coin is exactly that kind of piece, one that most people have seen, handled, and dismissed without a second thought, simply because it doesn't immediately stand out. It doesn't carry the same first-year prestige as 1966, and it doesn't scream rarity at a glance, but beneath that calm and familiar appearance lies a story that has slowly unfolded over decades, pulling collectors deeper into its mystery. By 1968, Australia had already settled into its decimal currency system, and the production of coins had become more routine, more refined, and seemingly more controlled. The Royal Australian Mint was no longer under the same pressure as it had been during the transition period, which is exactly why the rare variations of the 1968 10-cent coin are so intriguing. These weren't expected. They weren't part of a chaotic rollout. Instead, they appeared quietly, slipping through quality control in ways that still puzzle experts today. That sense of the unexpected is what makes this coin so compelling, because it challenges the assumption that only early or transitional issues hold significant value. What truly fuels the fascination around this coin is the way it continues to surprise even seasoned collectors. Over the years, certain examples have surfaced with unusual strike qualities, subtle differences in detail, and characteristics that set them apart from the standard circulation pieces. These aren't the kinds of differences you notice casually. They require patience, experience, and a keen eye, which means many of these coins have likely spent decades unnoticed in collections, jars, and forgotten storage. Every now and then, one reappears, and when it does, it sends ripples through the collecting community. There's something almost cinematic about the way these discoveries happen. A coin passed down through generations, tucked away in an envelope, or mixed in with ordinary change, suddenly becomes the center of attention. Collectors begin to examine it, compare it, question it, and slowly the realization sets in that this isn't just another 10-cent coin. It's something different, something rare, something that shouldn't have slipped through the cracks in the first place. That moment of recognition is what drives the entire hobby. The idea that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. The 1968 10-cent coin has built a reputation not through widespread recognition, but through whispered conversations, auction surprises, and the growing awareness that its rare forms are far scarcer than once believed. As more collectors turn their attention to it, the competition intensifies, and the stakes rise. It's no longer just about filling a spot in a collection, it's about chasing a piece that very few people will ever own. The demand is fueled by both curiosity and ambition, creating a market where even a single authenticated example can command serious attention. What makes this coin especially powerful in the world of Australian collecting is its ability to defy expectations. It reminds collectors that rarity isn't always obvious, and that some of the most valuable pieces are the ones hiding in plain sight, overlooked simply because they don't fit the usual narrative. That unpredictability is what keeps people searching, checking every coin every time, because the next discovery could be sitting right there, waiting to be recognized. And when one of these rare 1968 10-cent coins finally surfaces in the right condition, with the right characteristics, and backed by authentication, it can reach astonishing figures, with some examples selling for over $20,800, turning an otherwise ordinary coin into a remarkable and highly sought-after treasure. And just when you think you've seen how surprising these 10-cent coins can be, the next one takes things to a completely different level, with a value that climbs even higher and a story that's even harder to believe. Next up, there's a different kind of mystery that surrounds coins from the mid-1970s in Australia, a quieter, more subtle intrigue that doesn't rely on big historical moments or dramatic transitions, but instead hides within the everyday rhythm of circulation. The 1976 Australian 10-cent coin belongs to this category, a coin that feels familiar, almost too ordinary to be worth a second glance, and yet it carries a story that has slowly built its reputation among collectors who know exactly what to look for. It's not the kind of coin that announces its importance, it's the kind that waits patiently to be discovered. By 1976, decimal currency had been part of Australian life for a full decade, and coins like the 10-cent piece had become background noise, used daily and rarely examined closely. The Royal Australian Mint was producing coins efficiently, consistently, and with a level of precision that made errors and anomalies seem unlikely. That's exactly why the rare versions of the 1976 10-cent coin are so fascinating, because they weren't expected to exist in any significant way. When something unusual appeared, it wasn't immediately noticed, and many of these coins quietly slipped into circulation, blending in with millions of others. Over time, however, collectors began to notice that certain 1976 10-cent coins didn't quite match the standard examples. There were subtle differences, details that seemed slightly off, characteristics that hinted at something more than just routine production. These weren't dramatic errors that anyone could spot instantly, they were nuanced, requiring careful observation and comparison. That's part of what makes this coin so captivating, because it rewards patience and attention, turning the search into something almost detective-like. Stories have emerged within the Australian collecting community about these coins appearing in the most unexpected ways. A handful have been discovered in old collections that hadn't been touched for decades. Others have surfaced through estate clearances, and some have even been found in circulation long after they were first released. Each discovery adds another layer to the coin's growing legend, reinforcing the idea that valuable pieces can remain hidden for years, quietly waiting for someone to recognize their significance. What sets the 1976 10-cent coin apart is the sense that it exists just on the edge of awareness. It's not widely talked about outside of serious collecting circles, which makes it even more appealing to those who are deeply involved in the hobby. There's a certain satisfaction in knowing about something that others overlook, in being part of a smaller group that understands the true importance of a coin that most people would ignore. That exclusivity drives demand in a way that's different from more famous rarities, creating a market where knowledge and timing are everything. As interest in Australian decimal coins continues to grow, more collectors are beginning to revisit years like 1976, taking a closer look at coins they may have previously dismissed. This renewed attention has brought the rare variations of the 1976 10-cent coin into sharper focus, increasing competition and pushing values higher as more people realize just how scarce these pieces really are. It's a reminder that the story of coin collecting is always evolving, and that new discoveries can reshape the way certain coins are viewed. There's also something deeply compelling about the idea that a coin from an otherwise uneventful year can hold such hidden potential. It challenges the assumption that only coins from major historical milestones are worth collecting, and instead highlights the importance of detail, variation, and the unexpected. For those who take the time to search, to compare, and to learn, The 1976 10-cent coin represents an opportunity not just to own something rare, but to uncover a piece of Australia's minting history that has largely remained in the shadows. And when one of these elusive examples finally comes to light, especially in outstanding condition with the right distinguishing features, it can command extraordinary attention from collectors, with some selling for over $19,000, transforming what appears to be a simple coin into a remarkable and highly valuable find. But even this level of rarity isn't the end of the story, because the next coin raises the stakes once again, pushing the value even higher and revealing a discovery that feels almost impossible to believe. Next up, by the time 1981 rolled around, the 10-cent coin had become one of the most unremarkable pieces in Australian pockets, something people handled every day without the slightest curiosity. It had lost any sense of novelty, no longer tied to the excitement of decimal changeover, and no longer considered anything more than loose change. That's exactly what makes the 1981 Australian 10-cent coin so intriguing, because it thrives on that lack of attention. It exists in a space where nobody is really looking, which is often where the most surprising discoveries are made. The early 1980s were a period of stability for Australian coin production, with the Royal Australian Mint operating under well-established systems and expectations. Coins were struck efficiently, designs were familiar, and quality control was assumed to be consistent. There was no reason for anyone to suspect that something unusual might slip through during this time, which is why the rare forms of the 1981 10-cent coin feel almost out of place. They don't belong to a chaotic era or a period of experimentation. They belong to a time when everything was supposed to be predictable. And yet, unpredictability found a way in. Over the years, collectors began to notice that certain 1981 10-cent coins carried subtle but undeniable differences. These weren't bold, eye-catching errors that immediately stood out, but rather quiet irregularities that only revealed themselves under closer inspection. It might be a slight variation in the strike, a difference in the way the design presents itself, or a characteristic that simply doesn't align with standard examples. These small details have become the key to unlocking the coin's hidden value, turning what looks ordinary into something extraordinary. There's a certain tension in knowing that coins like this have likely passed through countless hands without being recognized. Imagine how many 1981 10-cent coins have been spent, saved, or discarded over the decades, each one carrying the possibility that it could be one of the rare variations collectors are searching for. That sense of missed opportunity adds to the allure, because it suggests that even now there could still be undiscovered examples sitting quietly in collections or tucked away in forgotten places. What draws collectors to this coin isn't just its rarity, but the challenge it presents. It demands attention to detail, patience, and a willingness to question what appears to be normal. It encourages people to slow down, to examine coins more carefully, and to appreciate the finer points of minting that often go unnoticed. In a world where so much is obvious and immediate, the 1981 10-cent coin offers something different, something that rewards those who are willing to look a little closer. As more collectors share their findings and more examples come to light, the reputation of this coin continues to grow. It's no longer just an overlooked piece from the early 1980s, it's becoming recognized as a legitimate rarity within Australian decimal coinage. This shift in perception has sparked increased interest, with collectors actively seeking out 1981 10-cent coins and paying far more attention to them than ever before. The hunt has intensified, and with it, the competition to secure one of the rarest examples. There's also a deeper appeal tied to the idea that this coin represents a hidden chapter in Australia's minting history, one that wasn't widely documented or immediately understood. It's a reminder that not all valuable coins are famous, and that some of the most rewarding discoveries come from the least expected places. For those who manage to find one, it's not just about the value, it's about the satisfaction of uncovering something that so many others have overlooked. And when the right 1981 10-cent coin appears, with the exact features collectors are searching for and preserved in exceptional condition, it can achieve remarkable prices, with some examples reaching over $16,500, proving that even the most ordinary-looking coins can hold extraordinary potential. And just when it feels like these 10-cent coins have revealed all their secrets, the next coin takes things even further, with a story and a value that push beyond anything we've seen so far. Next up, there's something almost deceptive about coins from the mid-1980s in Australia, especially pieces like the 1985 10-cent coin, because they come from a time when people had completely stopped questioning their change. By then, decimal currency was deeply embedded in everyday life, and coins had become invisible in a way, passed from hand to hand without a second thought. The 1985 Australian 10-cent coin sits right in the middle of that era, blending in so perfectly that for years nobody really considered the possibility that it could hold anything extraordinary. And yet, that's exactly what makes it so compelling. Because sometimes the most overlooked coins end up carrying the biggest surprises. Unlike earlier years that were defined by transition or adjustment, 1985 was steady, almost uneventful on the surface. The Royal Australian Mint had refined its processes, production numbers were controlled, and everything pointed toward consistency. That sense of routine is precisely why the rare forms of this coin feel so unusual, because they disrupt the expectation that nothing out of the ordinary should have happened. Somewhere during that year's production, something subtle changed, something small enough to go unnoticed at the time, but significant enough to create a version of the coin that collectors would later become obsessed with. What makes the 1985 10-cent coin so fascinating is the way its rarity reveals itself slowly, almost reluctantly. It's not the kind of coin that announces its uniqueness the moment you see it. Instead, it requires careful inspection, comparison, and sometimes even a bit of doubt before its true nature becomes clear. Collectors who specialize in Australian decimal coins often describe the moment of realization as something that creeps up on you, where a tiny detail suddenly stands out and refuses to be ignored. That's when an ordinary coin transforms into something far more significant. Over time, stories have surfaced about these coins appearing in the most unassuming places. Old piggy banks, forgotten collections, jars of mixed change that hadn't been touched in years, all becoming unexpected sources of discovery. There's a certain thrill in knowing that something so valuable could have been sitting unnoticed for decades, quietly waiting for someone with the right knowledge to recognize it. Each new find adds to the growing sense that the 1985 10-cent coin still has secrets left to reveal, and that not all of them have been uncovered yet. Collectors are particularly drawn to this coin because it represents a kind of hidden challenge, a test of attention and persistence. It's not about luck alone, it's about understanding what to look for and being willing to go through countless ordinary coins to find that one exceptional piece. That process turns the search into something much deeper than simple collecting. It becomes an exploration, a hunt driven by curiosity and the possibility of uncovering something truly rare. As awareness of the 1985 10-cent coin has grown, so too has the demand for its rare variations. What was once dismissed as just another year in the series is now being re-evaluated, with collectors paying closer attention than ever before. This shift has created a ripple effect in the market, where even the hint of a rare example can spark intense interest. Auctions, private sales, and collector networks have all played a role in bringing these coins into the spotlight, each new appearance reinforcing their reputation as one of the more intriguing finds in Australian decimal coinage. There's also a deeper sense of intrigue tied to the idea that this coin represents a hidden anomaly in an otherwise predictable period. It challenges assumptions, forcing collectors to reconsider what they think they know about minting consistency and rarity. It proves that even in years where nothing remarkable was expected, something extraordinary could still emerge, quietly slipping into circulation and waiting decades to be discovered. And when one of these rare 1985 10-cent coins finally emerges in top condition, showing the exact characteristics collectors are chasing, it can command astonishing prices, with some examples reaching over $22,900, turning a once-forgotten piece of change into a remarkable and highly prized treasure. And that's the thing about Australian coins. The real treasures aren't always locked away in museums or private vaults. Sometimes they're sitting quietly in your own home, waiting to be discovered. From the 1966 to the 1985 10-cent coins, each one carries a story, a mystery, and the chance that something small could turn into something life-changing. So next time you come across a handful of change, don't ignore it. Take a closer look, because you never know what you might be holding. If you enjoyed uncovering these hidden gems, make sure you subscribe to the Coins Studio. And stay tuned, because the next coin we're diving into is even rarer, even more valuable. And it might just be the one nobody saw coming. Thanks for watching, and happy collecting.